Hello, my name is Nori Rodriguez. And I am completing the principal certification at Lamar University. My student number L20568588. I am a fourth grade bilingual teacher at George H.W. Bush Elementary, and we belong to Dallas ISD. And our population or demographics is comprised of 65% Hispanic students. We can say around 30% African American students, and 5% comprised of others, white, Asian, American Indian. 87% of our population is classified as low socioeconomic level. And we have to believe that all of them are at risk just by that circumstance given. The purpose of the meeting for today that we will be recording is to create a focus group to try to cater to that low socioeconomic level and at-risk students that we have here at in campus. We want to develop, brainstorm, and create a proposal of strategies and instructional activities that are going to be targeting and reading and writing, trying to fill the gaps that we discovered on the practice of our district-wide STAR prep assessment. Especially, we want to focus on the writing because this year is the first time that the students are going to be typing in their responses. There are going to be 3 short answers and an essay that should be at least 3 paragraphs long. It's the first time the students do this typing, and the majority of them do not know how to type. Previously, at the beginning of the year, with my video observation number 1, we had identified a series of gaps that we addressed on that meeting using the taper. And we decided to discuss some activities that could address the gap of background learning that we believe our students have, and that's why maybe school it's kind of difficult because they cannot make connections due to the lack of experiences. So in this meeting, we have a sense of urgency, and we need to switch a little bit, and we have identified still gaps that need to be closed with our at-risk population. On that time, we planned a Austin field trip that is surely happened, but we need to switch gears a little bit here, and maybe will not be addressing specifically the activities that we planned on the first meeting. The topics for this focus group are going to be then on remedial teaching strategies, on reading and writing, and trying to address those gaps for the upcoming STAR test in April 25th. We will be proposing instructional activities, as I just stated, for the writing and reading. We're going to be working with writing. We're going to be trying to propose some strategies for vocabulary and the possibility of tutoring these at-risk students. We're going to have the teachers for 4th grade level, Ms. J.C. Rosier, who is an English language arts reading teacher, Ms. Booth, who mainly teaches math, but she's in charge of the dual language program reading in English. And she's going to collaborate too a little bit with us to deal with our newcomers that speak no English whatsoever. And I have invited the assistant principal, Miss Courtney Reeves, and she will be trying to guide us and see if the proposal that we're trying to come up with is feasible. We have always norms for our meetings. first and mostly focus on the students' needs. Take care of your technology, collaborate with inputs to come up with a proposal and solutions, and be present with an open mind. Thank you.
All right, guys, let's get our PLC started.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming. Here we have Miss Courtney Reeves, which is our assistant principal. We have Miss JC Rosier, who is an English and language arts teacher. And just at the last moment, we got the visit of Miss Sydney Booth, that's going to help so too with our focus group for at-risk students. Ms. Tirania will be in a few minutes. She's kind of running late. Okay, guys, again, thank you for coming. The agenda is on the table. Actually, it was Ms. Reeves who decided to have this meeting, but I'm going to take the opportunity because it works fantastically for the courses that I'm taking for my principalship, and I'm going to be leading the meeting. We have the agenda here, and what we're doing more than a PLC, it's a focus group, as you can see, that we're going to develop some instructional and learning strategies to fill the gap of our at-risk students, especially because the STAR is coming. We already we gotta remember up because we did it. We went through the data of the ACP and also through the data of the district-wide STAR, and we're dying. We're dying, especially with the short response, the extended response, and the kids are way, way, way below where they should be.
Okay, Nori, so let's start with anchoring to a norm. So if everyone will read the norm sections on our agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you will tell us what norm you're going to anchor to and why that one stood out to you.
In my case, always focus on our students' needs.
Okay, and why did that one stand out?
Because that's why we are here. We're trying to come up with ideas. We're trying to come with a proposal that could even be school-wide to get these students at risk to achieve and perform where they're supposed to, where they should be.
Okay. What about you, Ms. Booth?
I'm going to say I'll be present with an open mind since
Thank
I'm
you so
here
much.
to try to add some input.
Okay. What about you, Ms. Rosier?
I would agree with Ms. Nori and say always focus on our students' needs because I don't think they're the same for every student, and so focusing on if we could add in the word all students' needs because we gotta get them all. So that's what I'll be.
It's like Pokemon.
Yes.
All right, and then I will focus on collaborate with input on the proposals. And so looking forward to hearing fresh ideas from y'all that I can take back to the admin team and we can figure out how we can make something school-wide. I think it's important to talk about the dynamics of this room. So for Ms. Rodriguez, she has taught 4th grade for a while. She has taught Spanish, reading language arts, and then also at one point in time taught writing as well when it was a separate STAR test. Now they are all combined into one, so we're excited, nervously excited about the STAR redesign. For myself, I have taught 1st grade, 5th grade, 4th grade, all of them, always specialized in reading language arts. And then Ms. Booth is special to this group because she is the dual language partner. And so even though her focus is math, she also helps to support with the English language arts and writing, which she's been doing a phenomenal job this year. So I would love to start with you in a second to hear about how you're incorporating writing and teaching students English in your math classroom. And then we have Mr. Zier, who is our first year phenomenal teacher, who is in 4th grade. She is our reading language arts teacher. So let's start before we get into the topics and just kind of hear from you, Ms. Booth, on how you're supporting our dual language students with teaching English. And so I want to hear about in math, because that's important, but then also I've come into your classroom and I've seen where they have a separate center for just learning English to help them with TELPAS. So will you just give me a little insight on that?
So right now what I'm doing is in my stations, they have
I'm going to type if you don't mind.
Of course. They have a grammar station that we're doing right now, and I've changed it out every week or 2 weeks. And it's usually like game oriented, some sort of game, which I got that little, it's like English learner pack from Miss Reeves.
Oh, she's so sweet.
But they've really been liking it. It's been great. Like this week they're working on idioms, so they're like, terminologies, I guess, that they're not used to hearing, especially in like their second language. I feel like has been good for them to make connections.
So they're responding well
Mhm.
to the games.
They are, and it's like they have conversations with each other, and then I'm also having them write it down on paper. So they're having the writing and having the conversations of practicing using their English and also writing their English. And it's
Okay.
great because it's like sentence stem, so it kind of helps them.
Okay,
I,
good.
I want to add, Ms. Reeves, we definitely have a huge group of students at risk at this moment because we're getting a very big amount of newcomers that speak no English whatsoever.
That's good.
We're having a really big problem with that. So definitely for me it's really hard to teach English because I need to bring them up in their Spanish level, and they are at a level in English that is they don't even know the colors. So definitely what you're doing there is fantastic, and I think we need to get it
We need to get
across level because this is not the only grade that is getting newcomers constantly, but since pre-K we're getting newcomers, and we got to do something about the English because they're going to fail if we don't do that.
Well,
Please.
correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Booth. One of the reasons why we wanted to partner together this year to really look at our EBs, our newcomers. It's not always Spanish. We have them also on the gen ed side who might speak French or Arabic. Was we were a little shell shocked when we saw our TELPAS score from last year when that kind of accounted into our scorecards for TEI. And so I know that was definitely a motivation for us to start working through how we can close the gap in English, which is why we have our math partner teachers partnering on the English side, because we know that when you are learning a new language, you have to be dominant in your first language to then transfer it over to your second language to make the connections. So talk to us a little bit about, I'm loving what you're saying with, and one of your partner teachers in third grade, who also teaches on the dual language side, also has a grammar center during her math rotation. So I'm definitely hearing that you guys are doing cross-curricular, which I think is great, and I'm making note of that. I think that's something easy that we could probably add from kindergarten all the way up through 5th grade as a grammar station. What does the accountability part of it look like? So I know that you said you try to gamify it as much as possible. What is the accountability part? Like, how do you know what they're doing, and like what does that feedback process look like to make sure they're on the right road?
That's like funny that you mentioned that, because this was what I had a feedback session with Miss Crowling
Okay.
because I had a spot.
Okay.
And that's what we talked about, because I was like, realistically, it's hard for me to like grade them on their writing with that, and to grade what they're saying because I'm at my teacher table.
Right.
Like, I can hear them talking, but I'm not. So we were talking about how it'd be really cool to have them start like making little videos and like videoing themselves, whether it's on like a Flipgrid or doing something, to where they're having that to where it is a quick check where it'll save to where I can watch it later and check it. To where either they're like video themselves for part of the game, or maybe they're video themselves and explaining what the game is, or
I like
yeah,
that.
so
And they're trying to do that in English? Oh, great.
Yeah, it's all in English.
What about the newcomers?
So the newcomers, and that's so
Not-
hard.
yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean, honestly, they have to partner with the English. I partner them with kids. Like, I have to make all of my groups and all of my small groups, I have to make them, I have to have a translator in every section, in every small group.
Okay.
Because they're kind of responsible for helping them.
So I want to make sure that we are solution focused when we're like moving through this focus group today. So what I'm definitely hearing is one solution is we can for sure add some kind of grammar center
Right.
into our math rotation. So I want to like make note of that. And then one way to make sure that we are held accountable, and not we, but the students are held accountable for the information they should be learning, is that we can add flip grids. By the way, loved those. When we went virtual, that's all I did was flip grids. Loved them. And it's really easy for the students to kind of catch on to it.
And
so
definitely grammar is the gate to learn a language. That's what we have to start. Because the last skill that we're going to be able to perform is the speaking. We first start with the grammar, then we work with a base in grammar, we work with writing and reading, and lastly we'll be able to speak. So definitely we need to make a proposal on that and try to get it across the school, Ms. Reeves.
Yes, I agree. So it sounds like the trend on when we're looking at trends on the dual language side from, I would definitely say second grade through fifth grade, it's just that there's not maybe enough English that the students are being exposed to. What would we say? So this is the first time in history that the STAR test has had constructive responses that correlate with the reading passage that they're reading, no matter the genre. So if you don't mind, if we can kind of like dive in and analyze your responses.
That's our first item.
Yeah, that's I'm getting us right into
the
it.
Agenda.
What were your thoughts as you went through and you were reading them?
In regard to the responses, so I really feel like I'm working a lot on trying to get them to, they have information in their heads, and it is hard enough to get them to put it on paper, and I feel like I am running into a problem to get them to type it and to put it on the computer, because there's so much smaller, like opening quotation marks, adding a comma, adding punctuation, and those are things that they will be graded on. And so I feel like some of them are running into that. They forgot to press maybe the shift and capitalize, proper nouns or the beginning of their sentences.
There will be points taken away.
But then some of them do have it. Some of them do have, the spacing correct with their comma, space, then their coordinating conjunction. Some of them have their comma by themselves, out in the middle with two spaces around it. So I did notice that. Something that I noticed more with probably tier 1 kids was when they were asked for that essay, they immediately went into sequencing and would say first, Bella was this, next she was this, then she was this. Others would just say Bella liked to rap. And so, or add something that they, found interesting, but it wasn't necessarily relevant information.
Definitely, and that's a big issue.
It is.
We need to see how we are going to address that, because that definitely will not give them the points. Especially in the short response, back to the PD that we had and the PD that I went to, the short response has to answer the question. They are not looking there for maybe transitional words. They are not looking there for a good opening, but the answer of the question, like if it was an option on a multiple choice, has to be there. And we need to see how are we going to get the students there, because it's a huge risk there.
Yeah, so remembering that we are going to be very solution oriented when we come to our focus groups. If you don't mind, can I share when I came into your classroom earlier today? So I always love going into Miss Rozier's classroom, just so full of energy and has the newest technology every time I walk in there. Something that I was immediately thinking about, knowing that we were coming into this meeting today, is that you were using Nearpod, love Nearpod, use it all the time. But what I noticed that you were using in Nearpod was Quill. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you're using it?
So I like Quill because it is writing based, and so they're writing, but they're typing their answer. So it would instead of just having them do it on a piece of paper and handing it to them and be like, here's your independent practice, it's on Quill, and so they're typing their answers. And it really specifically focuses on combining sentences in all kinds of ways, whether that be with coordinating conjunctions, they're fanboys, whether that be with relative adverbs, whether that be independent and dependent clauses, combining them together. And so starting in a couple weeks or so, that'll be more towards semicolons and colons, just reaching out to all of the ways.
Name of the program?
Quill.
Oh, I got it.
And it's very like Nearpod, where they have pre-made assignments to it.
So did you take the Quill and input it in your Nearpod? Okay. Okay.
Just was embedded. You can embed almost anything you do in Nearpod.
Fantastic.
Just like a video. Like I embed vocabulary into it all the time.
Yeah,
then pause it, then add a question, turn and talk. Everybody write about it, then back to the video. So Quill could just be embedded in there.
That can be a solution. They're typing with their fingers.
I already saw today some of them were starting to go.
They don't know about shift.
Well, that's what I noticed with Quill. So I was just like walking around. I'm always thinking 58,000 different things when I'm in the classroom.
I bet.
But one of the things that I was looking at, there's so many things that we have to address before our students get to their actual STAR assessment, which is in April, and one of them is typing. Even though our students can text probably quicker than any of us. When it comes to actually typing, they're more of peckers, is what I would call it. They just kind of peck every letter. But what I noticed, how long have you been using Quill?
It's about my third week.
Third week, okay. So what I noticed about Quill is some of my students who I think I would consider probably your tier 1, if I went back and looked at their data, I'm sure it would align. They were able to start actually typing a little bit. Like I saw the placement of their hands. It seems like they're getting used to being able to type sentences. Something else that I liked about Quill is that it seemed to start them off with like a sentence stem, and they just needed to finish off that sentence. And I'm thinking like, that's great for right now for scaffolding. And then maybe after we do our mock star, we could change it to maybe we take that away, the sentence stem part of it, and then we have them doing the responses. That's for later though. But it had me thinking that there's no reason why 3rd through 5th grade could not be using Quill. So I definitely plan on playing on that this weekend, and then making sure that I have it ready for next week so we can start talking about how that could help. Because I saw it even with my friend RB, he was like starting to really get into the typing, and I'm like, that's half the battle for our kids. They're so scared of having to like have this response and being held responsible for typing it.
And the thing is, I can keep some of those stems up for certain students. So some of mine are transfers from a dual language classroom, and so they do need to like, okay, where do I need to start? What is the question? So I can implement sentence stems, or I can even change the question for
them
certain
specifically,
students. For certain
so
students.
it doesn't have to be the entire class.
The entire
so like
class,
your tier 1
class
students
didn't have the same question. I don't
right,
know
that's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that was actually
class
my next question that I had.
didn't get to have the same question because, my some of my tier 1s like you're talking about, they need a higher question. They don't need a sentence stem.
Right,
Exactly.
and that's kind of
Taking
taking
that
from what
sentence
we've talked
away.
about in previous PLCs where we talk about the multi-tiered and multi-level questioning that we do. And so I saw, as I was walking around, I'm like, oh, okay, this question is a lot different than the question that was over here, but it brought the word we like to use, equity, right? It made it accessible to all the students, and they were able to actually go in there and have a shot at success. So it's definitely something that I wanted to bring up when we talk about solutions. So the first one that I'm going to walk away with is that every dual language math partner teacher can have a grammar center in their math stations. And then Quill is something that we could be using across the board. How long would you say your Quill lessons were? I mean, I was only in there for 15 minutes, but
I kind of try and give them a little bit more time because a lot of them have the sentence, they have the knowledge to write the sentence. They're getting stuck up on the typing. So if you're willing to give them an extra 5 minutes to finish up that typing, they have the answer, and they would probably have it down on paper if we were doing pencil and paper. But the also great thing about Quill, I wanted to mention it earlier right before we get off of it, but I won't be on it too long, is there's one specific answer. I type in the answer, there's one answer. They press get feedback, and then if
that
they
was
don't,
my next question.
if they have space, comma, space again, it's gonna say your punctuation is wrong, better go back and look, and gives them a little flag, and then they have to go in and be like, what? It said punctuation, so I'm only looking at punctuation. Oh, it said capitalization. I need to go and look.
So you've already entered in the correct way that it should be. There's one correct answer.
It's actually writing, it's either right
so
or
if
wrong.
I go in there and I type in my response, it's going to give me a little feedback on like where I need to go to fix my mistake, but it's not going to let me move on. Is that correct? Until I have that one correct answer. Okay, that's great.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if you have the answer for this, Ms. Reeves. I'm very worried about my kids are taking the test in Spanish about accents. I don't know if the platform where they're going to take the STAR has the availability of accents. Have you heard something?
The TEA platform does, but not any of the mock platforms that we use right now.
Okay, so for the real writing
For
STAR,
the real
they need to
reading,
know their accents.
they will be fine.
That's a big issue.
But you also have to remember that this is the first year,
Mm-hmm.
and so there will be a lot of leniency. Right now, what they're looking for is this intense construction, and that like when they're reading through their responses, it makes sense, and the meaning isn't lost behind the mumbled, jumbled sentence.
Of
if that makes
punctuations
sense.
and
That's correct.
conventions. Okay,
Right.
that is
Yeah,
true.
that's what they're going to be looking at as of a week ago when we had our last meeting.
Another huge issue that is putting our students at risk confronting this STAR test is the vocabulary. So we need to come up with a proposal on what are we going to use for vocabulary.
Okay. So
You
what
already
are you
mentioned
thinking?
vocabulary.
Yes, I do like vocabulary. Vocabulary is good for more of a catchy tune, I feel like.
That's
and
correct.
It gets the students being, with Central Idea, we watched this one for Central Idea. They've got it by now. If they don't have 3 supporting details, they don't show me their Central Idea by now.
Mm-hmm.
They know they need support. But really for vocabulary, I introduced them to the word morphology and told them that that's the study of words and that there are, I went to a morphology PD, and so I got to learn that there are 20 prefixes
That's
that make
correct.
up the 98%, 97 to
Of the
98%
vocabulary. That's
of
correct.
English. And so if we know these 20, and so we do this thing called Morphology Mondays where we get a tree and then they get the root word, they create 5 prefixes with the root word and then 4 or 5. Usually we go to 3 suffixes because they're a little different. They're better with prefixes. And then every once in a while I'll switch up stations. We have a prefix game.
Okay,
And
I
so-
think those 20 prefixes need to be taught vertically.
Mhm.
Starting yesterday, because I think that's a fantastic information, and we can give them a lot of support there. I use the old school crosswords,
Mm-hmm.
but they're fantastic because they're made with riddles, not specifically definitions. And they are loving this. I don't have enough for the whole year, but we have been working on them. Definitely this enriches their vocabulary, and they collaborate with each other because we do this the first thing in the morning. Crosswords for me, and especially this one, it's pretty cool. Homework too. I'm assigning vocabulary for homework, and some parents will just text me back and say, I have never heard this word before. It's the time to grab a dictionary. That's something too that I want to bring up. We learned at Ron Clark that dictionaries were not an important tool, and I want to brainstorm on that. I do like them. There's one under each desk.
Well, I think they didn't say dictionaries weren't an important tool.
Okay.
What they said was like, gone are the days where students pick up a dictionary and have to
That is true.
look through the dictionary to find it, because all the applications that we use, School City, the STAR platform, they all have dictionaries embedded in them. So I don't think that they're taking away from the importance of dictionaries. I just think that they're saying sometimes the dictionaries, these dictionaries, because the skill is not taught anymore in elementary school, middle, or high school, it's a little bit more of a hindrance for our students, and it kind of holds them back. So they're saying that we need to teach them like the realistic way. How do we look up words?
That's
Do
what I was
any of us
thinking.
right
That's
here?
a change. That's
And-
something that we have to then.
and I'm
the
thinking-
definitions and some of those words are more confused. Like it
Right.
it leads
I
them down a
agree.
rabbit
I
hole.
Well,
agree.
and
trying
I'm
to
thinking
figure out
about
what it
myself
means.
and just like being realistic, which is why I taught my kids like, you always have the dictionaries if you need them. However, if someone says a word right now that I don't know, you better believe
Exactly.
that I am like looking it up right now.
I
My
have
dictionary
4
app
apps.
that's on my
4
phone.
apps.
So I think that that's what they're talking about, is we need to like expose our students so they're ready for the 21st century. They're not going to walk into any engineering job or coding job
Look
and
it
pull
up.
out Webster's
Exactly.
dictionary to
In
figure
my
out the
case,
word.
I like to show it to them because they need to understand that they are behind. That this is the group of of words that they need to learn, and how behind they are, because you don't know what you don't know. And if they don't know the amount of words that exists out there, they do not get the urgency about vocabulary, and that's why I use it. But we're not using it that much anymore. I'll try to just get an app into the computers and have them.
Well, and
work
there's
with it.
like, when the kids go to their download, wherever they download their apps from on the Chromebooks, there's like a dictionary. And I'll be honest, that's what I use. I pull up the dictionary, but the skill that's not being taught anymore is unknown, unfamiliar, multiple meaning words. Like one word can have 4 to 5 different meanings, and like it's our job to figure out the context and what that word is being said, so we know which definition goes with that word, which is kind of what Ron Clark was talking about. When you look it up on the web, they give you examples.
Yeah.
Well, this meaning here's a sentence below it to like, so you can connect and relate
Even
to what
parts
that
of
word
speech
means.
too.
Right,
So
that's
are we
correct.
talking about a
Definitely.
thing or are we talking about an action?
Right, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So that's where you kind of get into the multiple
Did they
meanings.
mention that Collins Learner Dictionary when you
They
were
did
there?
mention
Yes.
I
the
haven't
Collins
looked it up, but that
Learner.
was a
Yes,
you
and I
heard
think that is probably
that's what I wrote
the
down.
most relevant dictionary for our kids because it's just going to kind of,
Online.
that's correct. It's online and it just has the most common used
Okay.
way that you're going to
So
use
I wrote
that
that down,
word.
but I haven't looked it
I
up yet.
think the example that Dr. Collins actually said was you ask your students to go look up a definition in a dictionary and then they need to find the definition of another word
That's
in
correct.
that
It's like
definition.
a rabbit hole.
So it's
Exactly.
like that one
It's supposed to
is-
be easier to
it's
Yes,
understand.
it
That's-
is.
that's
Dictionaries
correct.
can
So I was
be a
like, I
rabbit
couldn't
hole.
remember the name of
Definitely.
it. But
Definitely.
that's what
Yeah.
it was.
And in
And especially
Spanish,
when we think about our students who are EB or are EL, because I know that's one of the trends that we're really looking at and focusing on. Okay, I look up the word collaborate, and now I have to go look up 2 more words for collaborate, and I have forgotten what collaborate means because now I'm on these 2 words. Then I need to go look up this word, and so it just gets a little dicey and complicated.
I know, definitely. Okay, anything else on vocabulary that we can
I think for vocabulary,
propose?
I
pretty
love
much.
the hand signals. And
Yeah.
the
Oh, yes.
Well, I was gonna
They
say
do.
that's definitely something that we will start next year.
I'm trying to start
K5,
now. in, like,
yeah.
my class,
A
and
lot
it's
of teachers
already-
are starting it now, and the
it's-
kids
I'm
are.
starting it now.
Yeah, I heard a story.
And I need to show you guys my pitchfork strategy
Yes.
here. So it was for the pitchfork, we have a subject and we have 3 details that have to be separated by comma, a conjunction, and finally the third one with a period. So I go just capital for capital letter because when we're starting a sentence, we need a capital letter. Then we go like subject, the who or the what.
Good.
The who or the what. So we go like capital letter, subject. Then we go 1, comma, space. 2, space, conjunction, space. 3, period, space, capital for the next sentence.
Yes, I love that.
Exactly. And we are learning that. The kids are so engaged. Then I
Yeah.
have an example. It's the same structure, and they're loving it.
And that's
This-
straight from Kim Bearden. Yeah.
It's straight from Ron Clark's skin
Yeah.
bearding. Just like
Yeah.
she said, I just typed it.
And
and
those
it's
are
there.
strategies that I just think like as the years go on, people forget about it.
Yes.
We keep moving
So
on to
easy.
different things, but
And it's
that is something that has been around for 30 plus years, and we just need to like bring it back and let it resurface. And so I
excited
had
about
the story
that
from one teacher that went to Ron Clark, came back, had a student in his classroom that always made 20s, 30s, started introducing vocabulary with hand symbols. For her, like a little catchy tune, and now she's making 100s on her vocabulary
Wow.
quiz. And so that's like incredible. That's where our kids are, right? We have to almost teach them in commercials, and so it makes sense that they need the songs and the hand signals and things like that. Yeah, I think that's great. And that's something moving across the board that we'll be starting with. And I love walking in seeing teachers do it right now, but I think everyone else needs to kind of sit through a PD and
Yes.
really understand what
I
it
have
is
it up.
because
It's
the
right
hand
there.
symbols have to
I
make
had him in the
sense.
hallway and Amanda was saying things and my whole class was doing hand signals.
The parallel.
Yeah, parallel,
Definitely,
right
definitely.
angle.
It's
Awesome.
so simple and so effective. So maybe we can come then to our third issue in the agenda, which is tutoring. That's another thing that we can definitely propose to try to fill the gaps with our at-risk students and maybe come up with ideas, bounce up ideas on what can we do and if it's possible.
It really is just for me going to be a station. I mean, I have 3 stations that are technology based, whether that be Writable Quill, whether that be iStation or Sirius now. And then if other students are doing iStation or Sirius, my ones that really need that support, really need that help with just fluency and comprehension, that's where they'll be with Amira. And then as well with, I believe it's completing a session at least 4 days out of the week, 5 days out of the week if we can. I feel like a session is going to be 2 complete stories. So
Okay.
that's
So-
where I am with Amira. What do you
In my case, I'm out of words. Let me see. I wanted to address tutoring as an after school.
After school.
Exactly. Because we are doing the HB 4545, and I know some teachers are doing some tutoring another day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, Ms. Reeves, you can fill in a little bit here. Are we going to have those funds to keep on with the HB 4545? Are we having funds to pay teachers to
Are
stay
we
after
gonna have
school?
the funds for the rest of this year or
Yeah, for the
years
rest
to
of
come?
this year, thinking that we're trying to address the start for this year.
Okay, yes. So that comes from a different department, the tutoring department. They are the ones who are paying us. So yes, those funds will continue for the duration of this school year for sure.
That is great. That is great. I do not have any student taking advantage of the HB 4545. For math, there's a couple, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You don't have any for reading?
No, I cannot think. Yes, I do.
You have
No.
the one new student that you
One
emailed
new
me
student.
about. Yeah.
Wow.
And he did not take the star, so I really don't know why he was in that list because
Probably because he's new.
probably because he's
isn't-
new.
Doesn't any kid that didn't pass the third grade, aren't they supposed to be getting that?
Right, but if you're with like a TIA teacher, then
then he
it's
doesn't
just
have to.
assumed that you are the expert and you don't
I
need
see.
to. That's
Okay.
correct.
Gotcha.
Anything else for tutoring? You think it can work? Should we propose it?
I mean, I definitely think tutoring works. I think there's also though a certain level of sometimes the kids are burned out at the end of the day after
Yes,
school. So
that
it's
is
like
true.
some days I feel like it's effective and some days it is I didn't feel like it was effective. I did it because I did it last year for 3 students that had not passed their math test.
I
and all
exactly
3
the
of them,
same
well,
thing for
2
me.
of them got meets and 1 of them passed. So it was definitely effective, but there were some days where I felt like it wasn't as effective as it
I
should
feel like you have to
been.
pick your group though too.
Yeah.
Like you
Right.
have to
I
know
tutor-
what students
I
are
tutor-
supposed to work
Exactly.
together.
Exactly. I tutored 3 of my students that I was very afraid of. They were, at risk hugely, and they did not meet. The 3 of them failed the STAR last year. It was very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Okay, how much time do we have left before
We probably
specials?
we have some time definitely, and maybe we want to address the field trip that we have coming up is exactly what we did on our last focus group because we were at the beginning of the year, and maybe we can just try to mention where we're at with that field trip to Austin. It's just a month away.
I know. I've even thought about that this week. I have. I think all the paperwork and everything is done. I talked to the cafeteria about they can only provide breakfast and lunch, so we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do for dinner. And yeah, because we're not getting chaperones. It's all teachers going. So
Okay.
Jackson's gonna talk to
So
somebody
parents are
about-
not coming?
No.
I didn't know about that. Wait,
Yeah, we all talked about that.
really?
It's because of the spacing.
Yeah, we don't have enough space.
I
We
missed
barely
that
have enough
part.
space on the bus for all of
For
us because we
us.
can only get 2 buses.
Oh, so that's okay.
So
I thought
it's just us, and I think there's like 5 or 6, 5 admin.
Yeah, we'll drive ourselves
Yeah.
though.
okay. Do we need to collect any type of money for this activity?
So everything is paid for from the funding.
Yes.
The only thing though we are gonna have to is with food because that's what
Their dinner. I think you mentioned pizzas
we're gonna
you've
have
done
to.
before?
Yeah, but
Yeah, we usually did CC's.
But $10, that's around $10, and I think that's doable. But we need to collect that money as soon as possible to have it.
I know.
So you'll have to talk to Lisa and make sure that that's approved.
Okay, no problem. So how many adults are we having?
To be honest, I did not bring my paper with me with
The
all
5
of that.
But
it's-
out of
So we'll have
There's
10
us,
for sure. because
10
there's
for
5
sure.
admin,
Yeah.
5
There's-
teachers.
okay, and there's 102 students. I'm pretty sure that, well, at least I do have the lesson plan ready for the capital visit, and
Take right.
yeah, exactly. I'll share it with you because we
Yes,
have
of course.
done this trip before, and
Yeah,
that's
just waiting to hear back
exactly.
for the campus.
In the
tour, too.
agenda, my fourth item is just questions and answers about what else can we propose to do with our at-risk students for this STAR. Anything else?
I definitely think that we need to add some Saturday schools in there. In previous years, we have done like STAR boot camps, You know, we had pizza delivered.
I know
One
we're
year
doing a
we
math
did.
one.
We're doing a math one. We'll do a reading one too. One year we did a camo. I think one year
I
did
remember that
Amazing
year.
Race. There's been like different ones that we've done, but to help just kind of push. But usually that's like 2 Saturdays before the star.
Mhm.
We'll break that in there.
That is great. That is
So I
great.
think that'll be helpful, and we'll be pretty purposeful on the students that we invite.
Well, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope that definitely we can implement all these ideas that we came up with. I'm very excited about that quill. Technology is not my best. I can handle it. I can deal with it, but sometimes I don't know about it, and I definitely will start with that. So just here again, thank you, Ms. Reeves, so much, our assistant principal, for guiding us. Thank you, Ms. Rosier. Thank you so much, Ms. Booth, for helping me with this. I think it was very productive and effective, and hands-on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ladies, thank you so much for coming back to help me with this project. I got a meeting with my field supervisor, and I was missing a little part about how we were going to get the accountability for all the instructional proposals that we discussed last time for our at-risk students. And I designed a checklist so we can track the days that we are going to be implementing the strategies on vocabulary, the strategies on grammar that we mentioned. And especially, the tutoring was kind of, we ran out of time, and I would love to talk a little bit more about this. But definitely we gotta come with a tool to measure the growth and the success of this. I heard that you talked to the principal.
I did. I talked to Mrs. Crowling, and we loved the plan that we started developing. The proposals that you were making were absolutely phenomenal. It's very hard to get Mrs. Crowling excited about something, but she was excited because we do see the need on our gen ed and on our dual language side with upping the English, the writing, the reading comprehension. So we're very excited about that, and we are both very impressed. But one thing that she also mentioned, so I'm glad to hear that your instructor and Mrs. Crowling are obviously on the same page, is we do need a tool of measurement on how we're going to actually measure the progress and the growth that these students are making. So we talked about tutoring, which I think is super important. We have already started our tutoring, which is great. There is money for tutoring, so I know that's always a plus for teachers when we can pay them. So we'll keep holding on to that HB 4545 money and the ESSER funds, and that's where that will come from, okay? So what I really need to know, I guess, from 4th grade right now is who can actually commit to tutoring. After school, we would like to at least start with 2 days a week. And then maybe the closer we get to the actual STAR test, we could probably go up to 3. So what are you ladies thinking about tutoring?
So I've already compiled a list of students who I think that can get to approaches.
That is fantastic,
I
Ms. Charania.
definitely have made that list, and we'll be starting tutoring on Tuesdays.
Okay, great.
That is great.
So I have Ms. Charania down for Tuesday. Perfect. And you said the students that you're going to be working with did not meet to approaches.
Yes,
you feel like you
that's
can
our
push them
plan.
too. Okay, perfect. Well, how about you?
So I'm thinking I love that there's, that we can do tutoring, because I think at stations that's a lot of the time where I get to see a lot of those at-risk students and see a lot of those, approaches like you're mentioning. And so obviously Mondays are, club days as well. And so I look to, and I think Tuesdays is great on the reading side, at least for me, just to kind of get those fence riders, I guess, that we call it, to push them forward. I also think it'll help with like confidence, in those smaller groups, seeing Miss Rosier and, a smaller instead of just whole class. So yes.
Awesome. So I'm hearing that you both can commit to Tuesday.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I was hesitant, like I told you last time, because just before COVID I did it, and those 3 students that I was tutoring failed.
Right.
And I was very frustrated, but I have to say I have a different group of students.
Sure.
There's money, there's time, and I'm committed. Definitely. I'm going to grab at least 4 students, and probably maybe Tuesday and Thursdays.
Tuesday and Thursdays.
Because since we're having the clubs and our meetings and trainings and PDs on Mondays, I'll try to do 2 days and see how it goes. I just wish it helps, and I think definitely it will.
Well, I think this will be a great time for us to back away a little bit from the HMH textbooks and the district curriculum and start to use materials that'll really get the kids excited. In the reading PLC room, we have game boards that the kids can use for selected skills. I have summarizing, central idea, inferencing, so those would be great things to use. We have some I can do games. This would be a great time for escape rooms, different things like that we can find to get them practicing their skills, but also excited to stay after school. And then maybe we can do just a celebration right before we get to STAR, thanking them for coming and being committed. Maybe we can do attendance, and we can have a little incentive for that. Yes. You know, if we have, let's say, 12 days of tutoring, maybe we can say students who are here at least 10 of those 12 days can come to the celebration right before STAR. Maybe that'll motivate them to make sure that they're here.
A lot of motivation are needed. Yeah. I remember that we used to do an escape room.
We did.
It was grade wide and it was crazy fantastic.
Yeah.
But COVID hit and we never did another one. Yeah. But definitely it was fun. It was fun.
It's really fun when you can partner up with the grade level to do it. We would do like room transformations, and we would come up on a Saturday. We would do amazing races where the kids would have to go to different locations. They would have to unlock a puzzle and then get a clue from Miss Rozier down by the cafeteria, unlock another puzzle, get the clue from Mrs. Reeves in the auditorium. So we can definitely be creative and do things like that.
Definitely.
So, but very important, the checklist to track our growth and see if these instructional strategies that we are proposing to implement are working and what are they yielding.
Okay.
Another issue that I wanted to bring now that we are together, I prepared this graphic organizer for extended constructed response. I don't know if you agree with me, but I think we got down the short constructed response.
Yes, I agree with that. But as for extended constructed, they need to know that it's not just about giving one piece of information or evidence, it's about more than that. And I think that's definitely something, especially to do with race, we need to hit that C very well and extend it.
So what about yourself? Are you good on short constructed?
Yeah, I feel better on short constructed response. I think really just hitting them with, because I don't know if you'll notice, but there's like the character limit also coming up too for just kind of too much wording.
Yeah.
And so definitely I think, they have down just answer the question and support it with evidence. Answer and cite as best you can. And so ECR is definitely more of a focus moving forward.
I developed this graphic organizer. I used to have one for 5 paragraphs because that's what I used to teach in 4th grade. But I was checking what a 5 looks like and which is the highest grade. And I think that with 3 paragraphs, we can put it down. I noticed that the introductory paragraph and the conclusion paragraph are non-negotiables. And it says it in the rubric. And then in the middle, they can come up with all the details and cite the evidence that they can find within the text. It is in Spanish, of course, because I teach in Spanish, but I included there a lot of transitional words and maybe sentence stems to open sentences, and I can translate it, and you can check it out, and I can share this to see if we can use it and how will it work for us.
Okay.
So the last thing that I wanted to ask you, Ms. Reeves, as the assistant principal, do you think that we can propose the implementation of these instructional strategies vertically?
Yes, we've actually already started working on it. We are starting with 2nd grade. because we know one of the biggest gaps that we have in elementary school is the second to third grade gap. So we have started with our second grade teachers. Whatever skill they're teaching, we have the third grade teachers teach it that same day. That way the second grade teachers can come up during their planning and they can see what that looks like in third grade. And then we are bringing them in the hallway. We're calling them our focused groups. And we're having conversations with them about what they see. The first two that we did were so eye-opening. We did one in reading and one in math. And we actually started this about 2.5 weeks ago. And they were astonished at how in second grade, right, they're working on 21 plus 3. But then when they get to third grade, they're expected to be able to multiply 2-digit by 2-digit and division. And so I think that they know, even though maybe their standards only cover to so much, that it is just their job to make sure they're at least exposing the kids to these skills, that when they get to third grade, it's not, the kids aren't so shocked. Exactly. So we are definitely already starting it. Then after talking to the second grade teachers, they said, well, you know what? The kids are coming from kinder and first, and it's making it difficult in second. So now we're just going to start the vertical alignment all the way up. So everyone, maybe on one day, will be teaching character traits. Kinder can see what it looks like in first can see what it looks like in second and third to fourth to fifth. Let's take fifth grade, roll them down to kinder so they can see.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, we're excited about it. We think it'll definitely help.
Yes. So then again, thank you so much for helping me finish my little project. And Ms. Reeves, I am available to present maybe a POC about this proposal that can come up to be a great thing within our campus, because it can be very helpful, and even more if we are able to show the data and the growth.
Awesome. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Here, reflecting on the activity that we recorded earlier, I have to state that I enjoy meetings greatly. People in campus here laugh at me because I always want to meet and no one wants to meet. It's kind of hard to get people together. But I learn from colleagues the most. Firstly, I learned about the app named Quill that Ms. Rosier brought up. And it was fantastic. I've never heard of it. I already went ahead and checked it, and it is a marvelous tool that I'm going to be working with, using with a few students that are going to take the STAR test in English, even though that they are included in the dual language program. But sadly, the app offers no Spanish option, so I will have to keep on working with Google Docs with the rest of my students. We have been typing and writing using the keyboard, and I just go in at the same time, and we do simultaneous edition and revision of the document, and they enjoy it a lot. It's really sad that many of the resources are not available in Spanish, and I cannot do much. For the tutoring part, I'm very excited that there's money at this time to be able to recruit some teachers, and I am seriously considering tutoring a couple days a week, even though that I've done it before, and especially last year did not work. But we have to take into account the COVID issue, that it's making things so different. I wish we had more time to come up with more ideas to service our at-risk students, maybe more activities, and we need to put them into action. This activity was very helpful because it was a time where we had the chance to share about things like Quill that I've never heard before. And I definitely believe that grade levels should meet, and that we should have also a vertical alignment to try to communicate with the rest of the grade levels what we want, what from the kids, what we think it's working for the kids, and try to implement as early as possible. So they know about the strategies, and the students know about the activities, and we don't have to be reteaching every single year the same activity. They already have it known. They have practiced it, and it will be much easier each year for them to get the most out of it. We are definitely confronting a teacher shortage that is making this vertical alignment very, very difficult. And that's something that we definitely have to deal with. Basically, that's it. I can think also about the field trip that we are having to Austin. That's an activity that we had planned at the beginning of the year. It's happening now at the beginning of March. I had some training that I had to assist, and that's why I was not in the loop about the latest news about that field trip. There's only a few chaperones going. It's happening, and it's going to be wonderful for the kids to have that experience. I think that's about it. And I'm looking forward for my next and last video. Thank you.